So now we gotta make the jacket. So I took a piece of paper and I traced my doll. So, and I added length, so it went to about the knee of my Ken doll. And then I would fold this in half and draw it again by tracing it onto this in half, and then adding on a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance and making the neck just a little bit deeper to make the basis of the trench coat. And after I cut it out, I place them so that the shoulders, which are these two spots, line up, making sure to count out the seam allowance on the table, and then I sketched it onto the paper again, and to a little triangle, and added set a little edge on it to go around the side, and I added length to it and added a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance to make the sleeves, which you need to cut 2 of. So this is the back panel, which you need to cut 1 of, and this is the front panel, which you need to cut 2 of. And the fabric I'm going to be using is a tan cotton fabric, and this is pretty thin, so I'm going to be using this for the coat since he always wears a tan coat. That's a trench coat, and it's really good if it's this really thin since there's going to be in some spots a lot of layering. So I'm going to cut these out. So cut 2 out of the sleeve, cut 2 out of the front panels, and cut 1 out of the back panel. So I cut everything out, and I also made a tiny piece for a detail on the shoulder by just flipping this over. You can also do it like this, and just tracing it a little bit farther down from the straight line, and obviously making sure there's 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to take the back panel, one of the shoulder details, and one of the front panels. I'm going to take the back panel, going to lay the shoulder detail on the inside, and since this doesn't have a bad side, it's fine. And then I'm going to lay the front panel on top, making sure the edges are all lined up, and then we're just going to sew a 1/4 of an inch down, maybe a little less, across the shoulder. I'm going to repeat on both sides. Okay, I forgot. Before you sew this on with the other stuff here, you need to make sure that it's facing the side that it needs to line up so it's symmetrical. And then you're just going to fold over the edge on this side that would be facing the side that would open. So here's the back, which I was in the middle of sewing. So since this is on this side, since it's on the left, you're going to sew on this right side. You're going to flip it over and sew it down, and then you're going to sew the bottom before you sew it on. And this one, since it's going to be on the right, then you would fold this side over, sew it down, and sew down the bottom before you sew it on to the actual giant piece of the jacket. Then I sewed on the sleeves just like the shirt, and then I cut a 3.5 inch by a little over 3/4, like 3 more tick marks more, of a strip of the material, and I sewed it just like the collar piece for the shirt, and I'm going to sew it on just like the shirt. Then top stitch the collar like on the shirt, and I did have to fold over one of the sides on the collar by 1/2 an inch so it would fit right. Then take all the edges on take the edge of the sleeve, the collar, or the hem of the, so take this part of the sleeve, which is the bottom, and take the bottoms of the back of the trench coat, and the 2 front panels, the bottom of it, and hem them all just like the shirt. Then take the front panels and fold over the side on the side that would be facing the part that would close in the front, and just fold it over and make sure the good sides are facing, so the good side of the fold is facing the good side of the jacket, and sew it on both sides. Then after I sew the sides, then I'm going to take it and fold it in half, making sure the good side is on the inside. Pin it in place and sew down the side starting at the sleeve, at the end of the sleeve, going all the way around, stopping at the bottom, and repeat on both sides just like the shirt. Then I trimmed off the excess and flipped it inside out. Now I need to try it on the doll. Then I'm going to take the collar and just fold it over. So I'm just folding it over by half, and it should stay. Yep. So now he's got his trench coat. To make the tie, I'm going to use some blue ribbon, which is a little under 1/4 of an inch, but I think it might be a little better if you have something wider, but this is what I found. So I'm making sure it's in a blue color, since that's what he usually has for a tie, and I'm going to measure it to the doll to see where I want it to go, which is about above his belly button. So I make a mark. Then I fold it in half at the same spot. And then I'm just going to make sure it's lined up at the end. And I'm just going to trim off the excess. And now I'm just going to cut the bottom at an angle on both sides, making sure the point comes to the center. A little snip there, and a little snip there to make that tie shape. Now I'm going to take some matching blue thread, and I'm going to open up the tie and place the thread in the center at the top, closing it on the inside. Now I'm going to leave this loose for the moment, so I'm going to make sure I have a lot of excess thread so I can make sure, well, not like a super lot, but just enough so it can wrap around the neck and have enough to tie. So this will be in the center, which you're just going to keep it in the center, and then you're just going to take more thread and wrap it around the top a little beneath. And you're going to wrap it around multiple times. But first, to start it, you're going to apply just a little bit of glue on where you want it to be. And then you're just going to stick the thread inside the glue, just smush it into the glue, and then let it dry, and then wrap it around to keep the thread in place. And you're going to make sure that it's bunched tight when it's wrapped around, so it makes so it kind of indents it. So then when you're done wrapping, then you're going to trim off the excess thread, and you're going to take some glue and just rub it over the back and let it dry to secure it in place. Like this. Just rub it on, and hot glue works the best for this because it will keep it in place. So then allow it to dry. Then you're going to take the two thread ends and you're going to wrap it around, making sure the thread stays underneath the collar of the shirt. Might be easier to put this on before the trench coat goes on. Make sure the tie stays in the center of his neck, and then just do one little tie in the back. Don't actually make a knot, just take the two strands, cross them, then place the other end inside the loop. And then you might actually want to do it that way that keeps it extra strong, where you just take it and you cross them, but then you put it through, but then when you take it out, you put it through again, so it makes it stronger, but doesn't knot it. And then just trim off enough of the excess thread making sure it's tight to the neck, and trim off enough of it, but don't cut off all of it. Leave a little bit hanging off, and then just hide it underneath his coat so you can't see the thread. And now he has a tie that he can take off. But I'm going to add a little more detail. Well, actually, no, I'm going to leave it as. I was going to paint on stripes, which you can choose to do since he sometimes wears it with stripes, but I'm just going to leave it plain. But his tie doesn't want to stay out. So to fix that, I'm going to just kind of tuck one end underneath the Velcro a little bit, but I'm going to tuck both. Not sure how to fix that. It just kind of pops out a little bit. It's not. Oh wait, there, it's staying. I sketched out what I think looks like an angel blade on paperboard from Supernatural, and now I'm going to cut it out. So angel blades have a long silver pointy bit, pointy part, and so it's just a little rectangle with a long triangle, and I made sure that it's a good size for the doll so it's proportionally accurate, so it's a big enough handle. And now I'm just going to glue it onto the paperboard a few more times, like maybe 2 more or 3 more. Then after I glue it onto the paperboard, which I did 2 more times, so it's now 3 layers thick, now I'm going to just cut 2 more pieces that are just the size for the handle, and I'm going to glue them on each side so that the end looks like this, where it has a little lip. So now I'm going to sand it around the bottom, the handle, on the corners to try to get it a little bit more round. Okay, so the smoothing into round didn't work, but it's like a box and it's smooth edges now. So the next step is to take some paperboard and a hole punch and punch out a hole in the paperboard. And then it's just now I'm just going to trace the space of the box onto the circle, and then I'm going to cut it out with an X-Acto knife. Make sure the square is in the center and be very careful because X-Acto knives are really sharp. Then place the circle on top, and I'm going to place a little bit of glue underneath where the circle will come down. So when it goes on top, it's very secure. And then allow it to dry. Oops, too much paperboard. Then after it dries, paint the entire thing with silver acrylic paint. This might take 2 coats of paint. Except for on the sides. It sticks better on the sides. To make your own custom Castiel out of a Star Trek Captain Kirk doll, make sure to like the video, subscribe to my channel, and watch all my upcoming videos. And leave a comment down below if you've seen Supernatural and you totally love this doll. Bye!